This episode of the Nerdball podcast is brought to you by Fort Meigs CrossFit. Thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their office to create my podcast. It's been a great partnership. They got a great space here. They got classes 7 days a week for all age groups, any skill level. If you need any information, check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. My guest today grew up in the Toledo area all her life. We talk about nerding out about Titanic, the comic book ElfQuest. We talk about art, the carpet store her parents own, and now she is vice president of Carpets by Otto. It's been a big part of her life. We talk about her going to art school, her art career, making miniatures. Check out the websites in the show notes to check out her artwork. It was really cool to have her on. Very interesting guest, and I can't wait for you guys to listen. So without further ado, here's my guest.
I'm Kelly Brown, and this is the Nerdball podcast. This is the Nerdball podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Great job, Kelly. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we don't know each other, and the only reason I would even think about reaching out is because you shared one of my podcasts, Doug Heinbaugh, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So first of all, I appreciate you doing that, and it led to you coming on here. So, folks, that's how easy it is. Just interact with me, and you can come on the podcast.
I'm thrilled. I'm super excited to be here. That was part of our Featured Friday shout-outs, and I love to give shout-outs to local people that are doing cool things, on Instagram specifically. So,
yeah, it's cool to see, and I'm assuming you know Doug. Do you know Doug too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I followed him, loved his work, and then we had a chance to meet in person at a couple events that he was helping. There was one that was at downtown by the river, like a fundraiser event, and we've crossed paths and got to meet Elsa in person.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that was a cool episode too because of the trip he just went on. So we got to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming out here. This is really cool. I really I enjoy talking to anybody, but really people I don't know because I feel like I think it's a little easier to ask questions because I can ask super base questions and then build off of those. So, I just interviewed a really good friend of mine before you got here, and it's sometimes harder because I know so much about him.
Right.
So it's harder to come up with good questions or whatever. But that was a lot of fun too. But the first thing I always ask everyone is, what is something you've been nerding out about lately? Something you're super into? Books, movies, hobbies, cooking, anything. The only thing it can't be anything to do with your job.
I am a total Titanic buff.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you see it? Is it still in the theaters, or did you see it when you came back to the theaters?
My husband and I did go see it because we had to, and we saw it in 3D.
Really?
And I mean, you've seen the Titanic movie,
Yes,
right? The
yeah.
James Cameron one.
Yep.
Yeah. And when we had the option to see it in 3D or just regular, I was like, well, there's no monsters popping out. Do we really need the 3D element for this? But it was so cool because it really did enhance it. And just when the perspective, when things are falling and just kind of the grandeur and the drama of it was really cool to see. But I go way back for my Titanic nerdness, when back in the 80s when they actually found the wreckage. Oh. And that was the early 80s. I was in grade school, but it was a big thing. And my parents plopped me down in front of the TV and they're like, this is a really cool thing. This ship has been missing. And to watch that, I was like, what is this? Wait, what? And that's when my fascination started. And then the James Cameron movie, when that came out in 98, whatever it was, it just enhanced it.
Yeah.
I saw that movie 10 times in the theaters. And then it's just gone on. I find books and there's podcasts about it and there's lots of there's a YouTube channel that I follow and it's just I don't know what I just love Titanic stuff.
But that's fine too because that's how things it always happens for the most part when you get into things as a kid, right? That's when you first do it,
right?
And they I always think of that stuff too, hey kids, I think this is going to be important someday, so let's watch this thing. I can't remember, there was something specific, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and I'm like, hey, I think we should be paying attention to this because she might be the president. This could be a big deal,
right.
First woman president,
yes.
that kind of stuff. So it is I guess as a parent to have foresight or maybe just luck that, hey, this is going to be important. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
I wish I would have asked my grandparents more questions back then. I don't have any of my grandparents alive anymore, but if they, like, what stories they would have known, because they spent most of their life with it, like, just it's out there in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the stories that would go along with it. But
The lore and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's at. Yeah. Do you remember when you went to, I don't know how old you are, and I'm not going to ask you, but when you went to see the first time it came out, do you remember the first time you went, who you were with? And
yes, we were late, and I ended up having to sit. It was at I think it was Showcase Cinemas, which is not even there anymore on Secor. And we were late getting there. It was a group of friends and I, and so we had to sit in the very, very, very front row.
Sorry to interrupt. That was my exact experience.
Was it?
Sitting front, staring
Yes,
straight
it's
up.
like
Yeah.
this is terrible, but I mean, it was kind of amazing though, because it was really like the grandeur and the massiveness of Titanic, you know. But it was just like the neck afterwards and stuff. But those were literally the only seats, and it was just like that's exciting too. Like when you get to go to a movie and it's like packed and so that was the first experience. Not very great seats, but so then I ended up like, well, I have to go see it again, like with other friends, with my mom and everything. Like I just dragged everybody and got better seats, kind of like sitting back and stuff. But.
So I sat right up front, and I don't remember at the time watching much of it because I went with my 7th grade girlfriend, and the whole time I was like in my head trying to like, well, can I hold her hand or can I do this? Can I do that? And I didn't even like pay attention to the movie at all. I was just too nervous.
That's a core memory, then, right?
It's stuck in with me. But my wife is the same thing. Like she loved it, and I think she saw it several times in the theater too when it first came out. But I think it's cool again to like have something that you can nerd out about that's just been a part of your life. And I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think there'll be like, oh, this is the last thing I'm ever going to read about Titanic. I feel like there's just always things coming up, or hey, we never talked to this person, or look at these videotapes I found, or whatever.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like, I didn't even realize that the rabbit hole could go that far. And then when I found a YouTube channel, there was like another story about some other little facet, and so many stories about the people's lives, and you know, there's a lot of technical aspects too, and it's just like, wow, this is a pretty good rabbit hole, you know, and it's just like fascinating to me. So.
Yeah. Do you remember like when your dad sat you down to watch it? Is there one thing that clicked immediately where like, I know as a kid you're just like, okay, it's a shipwreck or whatever, but can you think back to like, oh, this is why I love it so much because this thing happened?
I think because like just the span of how long it was missing. And it was like sort of like revealing a mystery. I remember reading Judy Blume books. I was a big reader, and a lot of the kids' novels back then were like mysteries to be solved. And as a kid in my own life, there was nothing to be solved. You know, like breakfast was at a normal time. I go to school. There was no mysteries in my life. Like maybe, you know, where's Tiger, our cat, you know. But it felt like it was a real mystery that by me watching it on the screen, it was like, I'm a part of this. Like this is happening now. And maybe that's why it stuck so much with me, because it was either my mom or my dad that were like, you know, this is a cool thing, kind of, you know, but
it was a real life thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it was like, this is really a real mystery that is like, I'm a part of this, you know. Maybe that would have been like, you know, people watch the moon landing or, you know, or other significant historical moments that people always talk about, like 9/11, where were you and stuff.
Yep.
But that's how it is for me when they found it. So
okay, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have one older brother.
Was he a part? Was he a part of this sit down too?
Nowhere around. No? I don't think he cares. I think he's seen it, but I don't think. Yeah, it all went to me. I got all the Titanic stuff. So,
are you still able to like? Because you said you're into it. You listen to podcasts, all that stuff. Are you a parent? Do you talk to your parents about it?
They know that I like Titanic. I have a Titanic keychain and all this.
I thought you were about to say tattoo, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
You're really into it.
That's a bigger commitment than I'm willing to do, for sure. But no, I think everyone knows. It's like a little charming detail, like, oh yeah, Kelly's talking about Titanic again. But I don't think they know like how much hours I've spent listening to things, you know. But yeah.
When you find that thing though, it just makes you. it just makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel good. Or
it does.
You can listen to a whole hour episode and 55 minutes of it, all about already. But whatever that 5 minutes of new stuff, that's just what keeps you wanting to do.
Yes.
Right? Keep going.
Yep.
Yeah. We went to Disney World a few years ago and went to the Rock. What are those places called where they have all the movie memorabilia? Those restaurants, I forget what they're called right now.
Yeah, Hard Rock Cafes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we went to one of those, and it had the door that Rose was on at the end. Yeah, like it was. It's up
in Orlando.
yeah. And it was up a spiral staircase going up to where we were eating. So we stopped. My wife wanted to take a picture next to it and everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm adding that to my bucket list because
she was
so cool.
Super excited. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all that stuff is really neat, but yeah, she again because she liked the movie a lot.
Neat.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was a cool thing, and then our kids are like, "What is this door?"
Right?
Well, you don't know. There's so many conspiracy theories that he could have fit on there too.
Okay? I know. And then when we rewatched the movie just recently, I was like, I really think so. Like they're onto something. Like why didn't they make the prop door a little bit smaller so there was no question?
Yeah.
You know, like
Or maybe they actually thought about it. Like, hey, we got to give people. Like, some little intrigue here on this stupid door.
Right. Yeah. I
this
would
multi-billion-dollar movie. Oh, well, I always ask a question. I've said it here before. I think I asked that question first because I think it's important to be able to have something outside of your job.
Oh yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
to get away, or even when you're at work. I listen to podcasts at work just as I'm doing computer work or something, just to help me, not that I hate my job, but I love my job, but help me just be more involved or something. Just be more present, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like it. And I always stress, to my crew, I stress work-life balance, make sure you have that because I don't want to be at work all the time. I know you guys don't want to be here all the time.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The vacation time is there and,
I'll look on, when I'm doing time cards, I'll look at, my crew's pretty new, so their paid time off hasn't accrued a lot. But I've heard other supervisors where they have direct reports or 500 vacation hours. Like how?
Oh,
how was that?
No.
I take at least 2 vacations a year. I just have fun, use it. You have it there.
Yeah.
Some employees just feel bad for taking time off. Like don't. We're giving you this time off.
Yeah.
If we don't want you to take it, we wouldn't give it to you. You know, or be a part of this contract. Do it, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leave. Yeah. I think it's better for everybody sometimes.
Yeah. The creative curiosity, and just always being curious about things and having something they're like, I want to know more about that. I just think it's good for the soul.
Yeah.
I think it's good for the people around you, whether they understand it or not,
Yeah. Did you, so before we get any further, you are part of Carpets by Otto.
Yes.
I think you responded you are Otto's daughter.
Yes.
And so you grew up in this place, and you sent me a video, and I, the first building they bought in Reynolds in Angola, I remember it because I grew up by Rogers High School, so which is down Reynolds and Hill Avenue.
Oh, okay,
and I remember always driving by that building as a kid because we would go that way to go to Hometown Buffet. We'd always celebrate family things there, and just seeing that building is my childhood. And as a kid, it says Carpets by Otto. You're like, okay, there's carpets in there, but as a kid, it's this big building. You're like, there can't be that many carpets. Why is this building so big? And I've never gone in there. I don't know if my parents ever did. I'm not really asking about going into Carpets by Otto, but I just remember that building. And when I saw it on that video, I'm like, oh man, that's brings back my childhood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. It was just dirt when we bought it. And I was wondering if that actually conveyed in the video because we kind of tried to show it was in construction, but it was a piece of land that they told my dad, you can't put a building on that because it's sort of like a weird pizza slice shape. It's kind of an angled thing. And there's no way a building would fit on it. And they're like, you can buy it and you can put a building on it, but it's probably not going to be good. It's not going to be worth it. And my dad was like, okay, try me. And so he was he worked with an architect and they designed the building that is sort of like a stair step shape. And it fits right in that odd shaped land. And, in 1987, 88 is when they built it. And I grew up walking around it, like when we were building it. You know, the concrete was exciting. So my dad and my mother Dee, and my brother Jay, we got in the car and we would go there and we'd say like, wow, ooh, you know, the concrete is poured and the cinder blocks were getting put up, and it was, you know, we were peeking out of the windows. It was just so fascinating to be a part of them building this property. It was a huge milestone for Carpets by Otto. And they built 2 other buildings after that, our liquidation outlet in Holland and then our Perrysburg showroom as well. And again, I was part of the process when it was just dirt, and then we're building a building that, like you know, people see that building their whole life, and like it's like a core, like, oh yeah, there's Carpets by Otto over there. So,
and even now, I used to work for the University of Toledo medical campus, and I would have to drive. I would drive on Angola past it, and then hop on the other side of Angola to go to get irrigation parts. So even then, like I would still drive by it and see that building. But you were talking about growing up. Did you always grow up in Toledo?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Toledo. Grew up in Old Orchard neighborhood on Drummond Road, not very far from University of Toledo. And basically, I grew up in a carpet roll, and I just thought everybody did.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? So, like every time you're just into your parents, this is their job or this is their company or whatever, you're just like, well, I guess everyone does this, you know?
Yeah. I didn't really realize it. We always had like deck boards of carpet samples, and my dad at that time had a blue cube, kind of a big, like a box truck. And my mom would drive me to tap dance lessons, and I would be crawling around deck boards of carpet in my little tutu with my, you know, tap shoes. And I just thought, this is what you do. And it was all fluffy, and, you know, carpet fuzz was everywhere, and just the smell of new carpet. And it was just like, yeah, this is, you know, doesn't everybody do?
Yeah.
No.
Do you remember as a kid, like having a favorite type of carpet? Because having all those samples, you're always like feeling them and touching them. You're a kid. You just want to be. Do you remember like, oh, I like when they bring home this one, or even if a friend comes over, like, hey, check this one out. This
yes, yeah. I remember like the shag carpet was still quite big. So like the big fuzzy ones that like you could lose a quarter in. Those were always the best ones. You wouldn't get like rug burn on your knees crawling around on these. They would at that time in our former building, they would stack the rolls up against the wall, and they would just sort of stack them up against each other. And we probably should not have been doing this. It was probably not safe, but like just my brother and I would just be crawling up the carpet rolls and walking along the top of the rolls. So the bigger, fuzzier rolls were always the favorite. It was like the tight knit, like little level loop commercials that like if you fell, that was gonna like make rug burn, and it was gonna scratch more. So we liked the big fluffy ones and stuff, but all kinds of stupid stuff that I probably should not have been doing. I was crawling up on the carpet racks and like hiding on like wood shelves, and you know, sometimes the installers would walk through the warehouse and they'd see me up there with I had like comic books and books, and I'm just like, hey, and they're like, you sure you should be up there? And my mom would see me, you know, and because my mom did all the books. She did all the accounting. My dad was doing all the sales and going out and doing all the measures, and then he would bring everything back. My mom was like running the business with the numbers. So it was just like totally a family affair. But I just treated the warehouse as like my personal playground.
Sure.
I had forts and everything, and you know, really good memories of it. And there wasn't any like major accidents or problems, luckily, you know, just scrapping around. Like nowadays, I don't recommend letting your kids run wild in a carpet warehouse, but it's the 70s.
Yeah. And I imagine you like crawling through those carpet rolls and coming up covered in lint and staticky.
Yes. That was the thing.
Just poking your head out and your hair is out here.
Yeah. There was like these big plastic, I think they were just like, it was sort of like a plastic coated, like, I think it was like meant to be like a garbage can, but it was something where they would put all the trim moldings, like kind of like sticking in this like barrel. And we would empty out the barrel and we would crawl in this barrel and roll ourselves around in the barrel, just in the warehouse floor, basically in a garbage can. Yeah. And, come out of that like with all static and everything was all zapping, and then, you know, crawl on the carpet. Sometimes there was wool. Yeah, it was a lot of static.
Kids do whatever they want, right? That's part of being a kid. I have another podcast I talk to my friends, and we talked about part of parenting is the fine line between having kids do something and get hurt or like try to judge for themselves if they should be doing this thing, but parents having to let them do that, and it's just, I think that line has really shifted more, even as a parent myself. My firstborn he's 11 now, but he was like, oh my God, don't do this. Don't touch that. And then my daughter just like, do whatever.
Right. Yeah. See, maybe that was the bonus because I had an older brother, and maybe Jay, and there's a 5-year age gap between us. So maybe that's why no one cared that, our little girl is just up on the tallest rack of our carpet thing, waving. Oh, well, Jay was fine. Kelly will be okay.
Yeah. Jay's there. Yeah. Sometimes. We'll be all right. Everyone will be fine. As you're growing up in this carpet world, do you remember, or is there a thought like, much like Titanic, but like, you're like, I'm just going to be a part of this when I get older? Or was that like way later?
I always knew, and it's very odd because I have a very clear memory of being in the hallway in our house on Drummond Road. And I'm not sure what prompted it, but I remember asking my brother, like, Jay, like someday, like, are you going to take over the carpet store? Yeah. Because if you don't, I'm going to have to. And he was like, you're not going to have to. And he's like, it's okay. And he's like, I'm not. And he's like, you're not going to have to. And I'm like, no, I am. If you don't, I am. And he's like, you don't worry about it. Like, it doesn't work that way. You won't. And so he toddled down off the stairs. And I remember standing there in our hallway, and I'm like, I'm going to have to take over the carpet store someday. And it was just like, I don't remember what it was. You know
how old you were?
I think I was like, I don't know, it's between like maybe around 7-ish or something. It was young.
Just having a crisis.
Yeah. And
wow.
And I mentioned that to my brother, and I don't think he really remembered that conversation. But I always had it kind of like, but for most of my life, I never really thought that what ended up happening now would have ended up being how the story went. That's just kind of like a neat way that it really all fell together in a really cool way. But I had an inkling a little bit when I was younger, like, but.
Having that inkling, once you get into high school, I'm assuming you're like, that's your job. Like you work for, like, do you have other jobs, or do you just work for your dad, for your parents?
In high school, I was always there, and I would just like, do like nominal things. I would do like office things, and I was like, emptying waste baskets and stuff during high school. It wasn't really like an official part-time job for me during high school. But I was always there. I did all my homework there. I would take the bus home to Landmark. It would drop me off at that Wendy's on Airport Highway, and would walk to Landmark. And there's a room up there where we would have dinner, and my mom's office was there, and my dad would be there. And at that time, my brother went out of town. He was going to music school in Boston. Okay. So it was kind of just like us. And we just lived in the carpet store. And so I was just always around it. I was always aware of it, but I wasn't actually during high school working there. That was sort of like something like I was there with my parents all the time, and it wasn't like, this is your job and you're going to be selling carpet. But I was always there and seeing things and helping with what I could, but it wasn't like an official job. I was like a total theater kid in high school. And
I was going to ask you like what you were into.
Yeah, I was totally into art and theater. I was drawing elves because I was addicted to ElfQuest comic books back in the day. So I was drawing elves on everything. And then I loved doing theater, and I was like, I'm going to be an actress and all this stuff. So I spent a lot of time in the carpet store studying lines and things like that. Yeah. So
what plays were you in high school?
I was in The Mousetrap, and I was big into the Children's Theater Workshop at that time, and did The Best Laid Plans and Don't Drink the Water, and just had a really great experience with the Children's Theater Workshop at that time. There's so many. Yeah. Like we did Runaways, and it was really just a great experience. And I thought, wow, like I'm just going to go into that. And then I'm like, okay, no, I don't think I want to be a professional actress. But then I thought, okay, maybe I could do art because I was always drawing and things. So, but it wasn't in my mind that I was working at the carpet store at that time.
Did you have another job, or that when you did that was, I guess, your job?
During high school I babysat, but I didn't have an official job during high school. So I was always at the store, but I wasn't working there. I was just doing like kind of odd jobs during high school. So
did you when you said babysat, it reminds me, because actually I babysat not very many times, as you'll learn why, but it was for it was a neighborhood across the street from Reynolds, from the store. And I remember going there. It was super early in the morning. I believe I was in junior high. And I don't remember. I think it was younger kids that went to I went to Our Lady of Lourdes grade school.
Oh, okay.
And it was younger kids and in the younger grade. And I went there. Again, my parents dropped me off early, and I fell asleep.
Oh.
But luckily, they were good kids.
I've been there. Oh.
They were good kids, and they didn't get into trouble or anything, And then
how long were you asleep?
I don't remember. Hopefully not very long. Hopefully, it seemed longer in my brain, and it was only like a minute or two. But I remember falling asleep, and then I think I told my parents, and they're like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that anymore."
Yeah.
Also, there isn't a lot of guy babysitters. It's mostly women.
Right.
I had fun.
True.
I'm good with kids. I coach high school sports, and it's probably something I could have done, but I found out maybe not right now. Maybe not when I'm in 8th grade.
Right.
It's when you can find a good babysitter, because we've had to use babysitters a few times. Luckily for us, both the kids' grandparents live in town. So we use them quite often.
Nice.
But it is when you can get a good babysitter, like it just makes you feel so much better, especially if it's someone like we've used, he plays football at Heidelberg now, but Drew Sims was the quarterback at Perrysburg several years ago. And I coached him and I knew him. And the kids loved him. So to come over, and it was one of those ones you knew already. You didn't have to get a reference from somebody who was a stranger. So you're still worried about it.
Right.
But it just puts you at ease.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved babysitting. I goofed around with all the kids and would do like improv games and theater skits and drawing things and stuff. I always tried to be like that fun babysitter.
Yeah.
I really had no idea what I was doing, and I was like, people are just leaving me with infants, and I'm like, okay, but it was great. It was fun.
And as long as they're happy, I remember having really good babysitters where they did the same thing. We colored, but for whatever reason, when our babysitter was like, "Hey, you want to color?" It was like we've never colored before in our life. We're like, "Yes, let's color."
Yeah. Right. It's like Mary Poppins is here.
Yeah. When we walked down the street, they had some chickens, and we'd go see their chickens and everything. So it was like this new. I mean, we could go there whenever we want, but when she was babysitting, it was like a different thing. It was just a cool thing.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So when you when you're going through high school and you're trying to figure out, and did you go to college?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're picking a college, are you still thinking I should pick something that's gonna help the carpet business?
No. Because it was running really well, and they had salespeople and a really good team, and there was really no need for me to fill in.
Okay.
And the whole world of carpet is very mathy. It's very exact measurements and measuring, and that is not my forte. I'm not a math person. No. And so I was always more into drawing and creativity and English and stuff like that and reading. So I didn't have the natural chops to hey, let Kelly figure out this diagram. It was well, maybe you can help with colors. And which is fun because when the carpet samples come in, they're in a box and stuff, and you can arrange them by cool colors and get all the blues together. Back then, carpet colors were very colorful. Now we're in a world of beige and gray.
Yeah,
but back then,
sorry to interrupt, but it's very frustrating because my mother-in-law loves beige and my wife likes gray. Mm-hmm. So all our walls were gray, which I don't really care, but I just growing up, my grandparents are from Mexico, and growing up, we had bright colors everywhere. My dad even painted a bright orange stripe around our kitchen.
Awesome.
One time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had Fiesta ware plates up above our counters or whatever. But then again, I don't really care that much about it because it's my house, but I'm not super into what it looks like. So my wife, she can take care of the decorating. But I do, wherever you go, it is grays and it is beige. And it just, I guess there's ebbs and flows to that kind of stuff. But
right.
But I guess how do you match, if you get green carpet, then what are you going to do the rest of your house type of deal too.
Yeah.
So I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting, looking back and I guess seeing the changes of it, the color wall and different color theories and color stories that the companies, create for us when they're dyeing the carpets. It's really just changed so much. We are getting back into color, so, but beige and gray is still king, but now they're combining them now. So we have lots of carpets that have gray and beige flecking as sort of a transitional, but colors are coming back.
Yeah.
But But that was more the side, like, oh, Kelly can help put the samples in pretty order and like clean things up and organize and decorate the showrooms, which I was like, maybe this rack should go here. And I would move stuff around and, fake plants in the store, like kind of like arrange things and stuff. So, but I was not like vital to the company in any way.
Well, I'm sure there is a role like
back in the
vital. I don't know if being vital that might be a strong word, but I think you were important still, right? At some point,
yeah. I was always around, and I was always, I mean, my dad is very good with talking to people, and he would include me in conversations and say, "This is my daughter," and I was like, "Oh, hi," and just talking with people about their projects, and I learned that from him, and just interested in people. It's very interesting work because you're in people's projects, and there's usually a lot of details and things, and so I liked just being around it and being a part of it, But I'm trying as we continue. I'm trying to figure out when the time was. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to work here. I mean, we haven't even got there yet. Like, because even in college, and there's there's still a long way to go. Literally, this.
You're like, I'm still not working for them.
Yeah, it was really, it was like 2020 during COVID was really when I started like focusing more on Carpets because I had like a completely different, and I still do have a completely different art focused career is my main career as art. In high school, when I realized I'm not going to do the theater thing, and my freshman year, I went to Central Catholic High School. I went to Catholic school just like you. I went to St. Pius X, Catholic school for grade school, and then Central Catholic High School, and then. For my freshman year, I was really excited to take art because like I said, I had all these comic books and the carpet racks, and I was drawing elves. So I took art my freshman year and actually got a D in art. No. And it was sort of, I mean, I'm not really sure why because I did all the projects, but...
And I think that's all art class has to be because art is so subjective. Like a teacher can just be like, that's horrible, that's D, F, A, but it's just like, did you do it? And did you use the techniques I taught you?
I thought I did, and I still got a D. And I was like, okay, this is not fun. And I did not take art again. I switched into taking yearbook. And I took Spanish, and I took like Young Lawyers Club. And so I just went into different directions and didn't take art. Yeah. But on my own, I was still drawing because I love comic books, and I was still drawing all the time. And it was like my main side thing. When I was also doing theater. And then my senior year, when I really had to decide what I was going to do, and I was like, it's not going to be theater, I applied to the Columbus College of Art and Design. And I went down to the art department, and they were like, who are you? And I'm like, well, I want to go to art school. And they're like, well, you didn't take art. Like, you're not an artist. And I'm like, I'm an artist. And I'm like, I want to go to art school. And they're like, well, okay, like, you're going to need to put together a portfolio to get into CCAD. They were just kind of baffled by me. But I was like, well, what kind of drawings do I need to have? And I created a portfolio. I ended up winning a $10,000 scholarship to CCAD, which was unheard of for them. Yeah. So they actually created a category for me, excuse me, called Independent Study. Oh. Which, whatever. But because they were like...
You don't seem super thrilled about that category.
Well, yeah. Well, it was like I didn't take art through them, so I couldn't be like, look, our art curriculum created a student that got a scholarship. It was like this Kelly girl kind of did this on her own, and no one else got accepted, let alone no one else got a scholarship. Yeah. So, but they created this little category, and they were like, at my senior year, I had a little portfolio thing like at the end of the year, but that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be an artist. Yeah. And so I went to art school. Yeah. And that was like, it was great. It was awesome. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an artist. And anything with the garbage store was not really connected at all at that time.
You keep talking about this elf comic.
Yeah.
What is this exactly?
It's called Elf Quest.
Okay.
By Wendy and Richard Peeney. Mm-hmm. And Wendy Peeney hand draws all of these gorgeous illustrations. And I was in Girl Scouts, and we were going to Columbus, oddly enough, for a Girl Scout trip. And my mom thought, oh, why don't you pick some comic books to read on the bus when you go down there? Mm-hmm. And so I like grabbed one, and then I just read it, and I just loved the art, and I just tried to copy her as best I could.
I'm looking it up right now. Is it done? Is there like
they
had made new ones or anything?
Yeah, they had like different guest artists that did more artwork with it. I'm pretty partial to just Wendy's artwork, the original series, but they had so many different series, and they brought in like some sea elves, and there's all these. Wow, I can nerd about elves too.
Yeah.
Ta-da, you didn't know. Titanic to elves.
No, that's good.
But
I've never been into. My dad was into comics, and he has like 4 big comic boxes full of comics.
Yeah.
But comics weren't my thing. I like video games, I like sports and stuff. But looking at this ElfQuest stuff, there's ElfQuest book 3. It's selling for $250 on Amazon right now. That's
probably sitting in my basement. I know it is.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, the Siege at Blue Mountain and Kings of the Broken Wheel, all these different like stories. And ElfQuest now is actually a podcast. They actually, because they wanted to do an animated movie, but they were like, if it's going to be a movie, you're going to have to do it our way. And the people were like, no, we want to do it our way. So they did a podcast of it, like with neat sound effects and guest voices.
Those are my favorite podcasts. I call them audio dramas, or they're called audio dramas, right? I'm listening to one now. It's been going on, I think, for like 8 years. And of course, it's one of my favorite ones. I can't think of the name right now, but it's like a zombie type one.
Whoa!
But they're so like, I'm so interested in doing one. I just know like there's a lot of work, and I have people that were like, hey, if you want to do it, I'll help you out and this kind of stuff. But it's a lot of work. But they're like, to be able to listen and like, some of them tell you like, hey, make sure you have headphones on because it's much better listening with headphones. But they're just so well done, like you said, with the sound and everything.
Yeah, it's so atmospheric, and there's like a scene where there's fire, and like I don't know how they made that effect, but I mean the forest is burning around you. It's really neat. It's really cool. I'm glad that they went in that direction to stay true to what they wanted.
Yeah, because sometimes, because even with this podcast, I think like, man, this would be a sweet movie, but then. I don't know if it would ever get made, or it was one of those things like when they turn books into movies, like you said, like the director or producer's like, well, this is how I see it, and this is how we're gonna do it, you know. So it might ruin it for you or whatever, you know. But those audio dramas. There's
is that zombie one? Is it scary? Like, do you listen to it with your kids, or is it?
It's pretty scary. There's cuss words, there's shooting, there's there's a lot of stuff. But it's I don't listen to my kids. Let my kids listen to it, but it is a good one. Gosh, I don't know why now it's bothering me, and I got to be able to figure out what it is.
What is the name? Right? It's not. Does it have zombie in it?
No, but now it's like not necessarily offshoot, but they were like in between. Like they took like 2 years off, so they made it like the kids of the original people are part of it now. And some of the original people are still there, but it's so frustrating. And this does not make good for a podcast of me just trying to scroll through my phone to find it. But like I said, it's been around for so long too, which is part of it too. It's like we watched The Walking Dead, and it was like we started watching it just because like, well, we've been watching it for so long, we got to like keep going, and then after a while, that didn't keep us into it either. But it's called We're Alive. That's what it's called.
Interesting.
We're Alive, and now it's called We're Alive Descendants. But they have like different things. But I almost want to like go back and like start it again because it's so good. But maybe I'll do it when it's done. Or because they've taken a year off before, or a couple years, and sometimes like, well, I guess that's it, you know. But then it comes back, I'm like, oh my god, it's back, and you get so excited about it. Yeah. So you said ElfQuest is now a podcast.
Yes. Right? Yep. Okay. They made, and I'm not sure if it's completed or if they're doing it in stages, because ElfQuest has a lot of stories. But
that's what I was going to ask you. Are these like independent books?
It's all one storyline about one particular tribe of elves, and then how they there's like different things that come around and stuff, but it is like a continuous story. Okay. They had guest artists come in, but the storyline was always, I believe, just always Wendy and Richard themselves. Okay. And I found them in the early 80s, and was big into collecting it, and it was just, just like another little thing to nerd out about, I guess. But,
well, I guess the reason you talk about it is because this is kind of what propelled your your love for art, right?
Yes, on my own, imitating Wendy. Yeah, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but I was really just trying to see what she was doing because it just was so cool. I'm like, I want to draw like that.
Yeah,
So.
but that happens with everything. Like I used to do stand-up comedy, and
really?
Yeah, when people would start, and famous comics talk about this too, when they would start, even like you just sound like the person you really like. And you could hear it, but that's just how people start, and eventually you figure it out or whatever.
Right.
But it's the same thing. Like you just imitate them because that's what you know, and that's good. So you want to try that, and then you figure it out for yourself. Like how am I doing this thing? Whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah. It'll emerge if you stick with it.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Like I used to, I would draw a lot too. I never had like someone I like look up to or like you with Wendy and ElfQuest, but I like drawing. I like coloring. But then as I got older, I stopped doing it. And I'm not very good at it now. Like my kids would ask me to help them with something, and my wife is really good at it. Just natural talent at drawing and helping them come up with stuff. And maybe it's just a mom thing because she's really good at playing pretend also.
Oh, yeah.
So my daughter's like playing with her dolls or whatever and having conversations and stuff. And my daughter, one time, she was probably like 6, maybe 5, and we were playing Barbies. And then after a while, she's like, "Dad, you can be in charge of the shoes." I wasn't doing a good job, apparently. So I had to arrange the shoes. So right. I didn't have any speaking parts.
That's great. I mean, this is the same way. Yeah. Maybe that is a mom thing. I don't know.
I love listening to her like play because of all the things she comes up with. And I tell her, I could never like dream of that. So me and my son play Fortnite together. And so that's what we do. So
that's
So we'll interact that way. Watch sports. So you talked about art career now. So what is that exactly?
After I graduated, that's going to go back to Carpets Panel. But
hey, it doesn't matter. Wherever we're at, that's where we'll go.
I had in 2001, and maybe you remember this, the city of Toledo had the It's Raining Frogs campaign where they had those giant fiberglass frogs all around downtown
Toledo. You still see them every once in a while at different places.
Yes, yep. There's a couple rogue ones around, and then a lot of them are in private homes. And that was, in 2001, that was when I decided, because I had been working at Carpets by Otto. After I graduated art school, I did not get married to the oil painter that I was dating in art school, and we didn't move off to Brooklyn to go live in a shacklet and be like just living in Brooklyn. Artist. Yeah, starving artist, right? Right. Thank you. I couldn't remember the word. So it didn't work out with the guy, and so that was my whole plan. Was like, I'm going to Brooklyn and with this painter, and thank goodness it didn't work out because after art school, when I graduated with my fine art degree, I just came back to Toledo. And I had an exhibit in Ann Arbor, and I'm like, okay, I'm an artist. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to pay the rent. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I was like, okay. And that's when I came back to the carpet stores, and my mom was still working out of the Landmark location. And I was like back at the stores, and everyone was like welcoming me back because I had been gone for 4 years. And then that began a 5-year period where I actually was working again at Carpets by Otto. And that was really the first foray into like, okay, I'm really going to be working at Carpets by Otto. That was like 1996 to 2001.
Okay.
And it started out slow, kind of real innocent. I was like arranging the carpet samples again by color and just kind of like, I can help. And then it became like I could really help. And then I became a showroom attendant. And I was just back with my mom and dad, because I had lived for almost 5 years in Columbus. So it was like a nice family reunion. My brother at this time was still living in Boston. Mm-hmm. So, but there was a 5-year chunk there during that time when I was like, okay, I'm working in the family business. I was ordering carpet. I was doing deposits. I had a cubicle. And I was not doing much art in the side. But in 2001 with the It's Raining Frogs, I actually painted 5 of those for 5 different custom commissions. And that's when I told my folks, I'm like, I can't be at Carpets by Otto. I was in my 20s. I was like, I'm never going to meet anybody. I'm not getting out. I'm just working. And I'm like, this is not going to work. And they were like, that's great. They're like, do something with your art. That's fine. They always encouraged me, always were very supportive of me. And then in 2001, that's when I started Art by Kelly, my faux finish and mural business. And that like began my official art career, which lasted up until, I think it was 2014. I think it was 2014 when I called it, but that was my career. I went and did faux finish training and was painting murals like residential and commercial jobs. And I did faux finish and murals in all the Carpets by Otto showrooms. And I worked with interior designers. I did Parade of Homes houses. But I was on a ladder troweling Venetian plaster and painting, nature murals and children's murals. And it was fantastic. And that was my thing. I was Art by Kelly.
So when because I know with artists, like you have the way you do things or the way you see it. Even I have tattoos, and I told my artist, here's what I want. Whatever you come up with, you're the artist.
Yeah.
I'll then you put it on my body. I'm not going to tell you down to each detail. Is that similar to like when you do these murals? Like people kind of give you a broad range of like, here's my broad idea, and then you just do it? Or
Yep.
Okay. Because I know I've talked to someone on here who does ceramics, and she's like, I do not do any commission. I don't do any of that stuff. I just want to do what I want to do. And if people want to buy it, they'll buy it. And if they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when I was doing that, I was completely all custom commissioned. People would come to me and say, like, at that time, Tuscan kitchens were really popular in the early 2000s, and people wanted like soft, like Italian villa plaster, and I'd be like, I've got this, I can do this, and I'd be troweling their walls and giving them color suggestions, and people would want like a fun kids mural, and they would give me like, well, we just want it to have a lot of purple, and she likes geese, and I'd be like, okay, great, and I'm drawing cute geese and ducks and frogs, and I did a dragon mural, and it was really fun, but it was all custom stuff. And when I was doing faux finish, I mean, I'm in someone's home, and I want them to like it and all that stuff, so I was very much like listening to what they wanted, and it was great. I loved it. I had different artists working for me. I did large scale. I did when it was called Fatfish Blue, Home of the Funny Bone. All of that mural and that double stairwell.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, maybe I don't know if you know the stage, like for the Funny Bone, it used to be a crackled plaster. That was actually something I troweled. Now since then, they actually put faux brick up, which I think is personally much better because it looks like classic comedy club background. Yeah. But yeah, and that was my world, and I was connected to Carpets by Otto because we built those other buildings, and I loved those buildings. I was walking around with my mom and dad, and it was like walls were going up, and we were planning. I'm like, I'm going to do plaster on this, and all of the showrooms I did kids mural out at Levis and plaster on the ceilings and metallic plasters and Venetian plasters. Like all the Carpets by Otto showrooms are like totally decked out in faux.
Yeah.
But. And it was great. And so I was like in an interior design business where people would see, the floor and see the walls. And it was just kind of an interesting, like, I wasn't doing anything with flooring, but I was decorating walls around other people's floors. Yeah. And every now and then it would coincide where I would be in a house doing the walls where it was Carpets by Otto flooring and stuff. So
you talk about it like it's past tense, like you don't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah, in 2014, I tweaked my back, and I was and luckily now my back is fine, but I had just gotten married at that time, and I was like, I wanted to have my own house finally, and I was like, I just wanted to focus on, now it's finally my time. Like I'm not going to be in other people's dream houses. I want to try and have a family, and like that's going to be my focus. Like that was great, but now I just want to be a mom and I just want to get married and all that stuff. So that was like the big plan. And, but it was mostly my back. I was like, I cannot be up on these ladders,
Yeah, I can imagine you. I mean, and you're twisting and moving and weird,
Yeah. I saw a chiropractor who said it was like a downward twisting motion because I'm right-handed. It was just like, he kind of likened it to like a paper bag getting like twisted too much, and it's like just soft in that part. So, but it was fine. There wasn't any damage. I'm totally fine now.
Yeah.
I took some anti-inflammatory medicine. It worked great and everything's, fine. Thank goodness. But, that's when I was like, okay, I don't want to do the big scale art. And that's when I refocused into, doing paintings and like contemporary artwork. And that's when I started art show circuit, and I did all of the local art shows like Crosby and Redbird, the Levis Commons one and the Downtown Sylvania one, and I had the tent selling my paintings. And then I kind of made little magnets that I was also selling on the side, like when I had my paintings, and I noticed like people really like these magnets more. So then I was
isn't it weird just what people are draw? Like you have this not necessarily throwaway, but you're like, I'm going to do these little things too. And you're like, wait, they're all gone already?
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. And so my cousin gave me these bottle caps, a big bag of bottle caps, and he was like, maybe you could do something with these. And I was like, what could I do with these? So I started making them into little bottle cap pies. Oh. And that started Tiny Foods. And so I'm like, this is pretty cool. And
I don't know what, I love tiny things, and I don't know what it is. And my daughter does too now. So she went to Hobby Lobby and got like, she was so excited. She came downstairs like, Dad, look at these. I got small donuts. I got tiny pops. And I got these tiny little bunnies, like all these little things.
Yes.
But so Tiny Foods.
Yeah, it goes with the Barbie thing and the little bottles. I mean, they're so cute. Yeah, I mean, especially the bottles, you know, like, yeah, the little box. Yeah, I know. It's like, I don't know what it was. I mean, so I had all these bottle cap pies, and I was like, okay, good. You know, I'll just make pie magnets. Not with clay, because I'm not a clay person. I figured out a way how to use like felt and beads because I didn't want to do anything with clay. I tried it and I'm like, that hurts your hands. And I'm like, this is not fun. And I'm like, what else could I use? So I came up with my own way of like, you know, just putting in different cut bits of foam and felt and stuff to make pies. And they looked pretty good. And I have, I'm friends with Dina Villa, who owns El Tipico Mexican restaurant. And she asked me, she's like, Kelly, can you make a little taco? Yeah. And I think she thought I was just going to like bend a bottle cap, like to make a little taco out of a bottle cap. Because she's like, well, you know, you use bottle caps, you do bottle cap art. And I'm like, no, I don't do bottle cap art. I just used them. I just made bottle caps into pies. And I'm like, if you want a little tiny taco, I can do better than that. Yeah. So like the first one I made looked like crap, and then like the 20th one I made actually looked like a pretty awesome little taco. Yeah. And then I was like, this is fun. And then I was like, what else could I make? And I'm like, I made little burritos, and then I made pizza, and then that turned into Mini Miscellaneous, which is my tiny food. I don't know if it's company, my tiny food business. Yeah, yeah. So Art by Kelly was fine art, contemporary painting, and then Mini Miscellaneous was Tiny Foods. And that did great, and that was amazing. And that's what I had been focusing on, like, all these past times. And it was COVID that shut down all the Mini Miscellaneous shows. So, and then that's where I was like, how's Carpets by Otto doing during all this stuff? And I went back and visited the stores. I'm friends with everyone there. And they were like, Kelly, how's it going? And I'm like, how's it going for you guys? And that's in 2020. I'm like, boy, you know, like, that light is burnt out. And, like, why is this toilet, like, flooding? And I'm like, who's... You know, I care about these buildings. Like, what's happening to, you know, my family's stores? And that's where I slowly was like, well, I'm going to help. Yeah. So then I started helping, and now I'm really helping. So I went on your website and saw these mini foods are incredible. Thank you. Oh, good. You have mini, yeah. Yeah. So there's a grilled cheese with it spread apart, and the cheese is melted in the middle. A box of donuts. Looks like to be a donut bracelet or necklace. Yes, donut bracelet. Yeah. Very popular. These pancakes. Oh my gosh. So do you do anything? Like, do you still do these tiny things? I do. Well, that's kind of the thing. Like, I don't have time anymore to like make the stock for shows, but everything is still available on the website, and I love that. That's another thing. Goldfish in a bag. Those were so popular. They're sold out now because I can't keep them in stock. Yeah. It took me like 2 years to figure out how to make those. Kelly, these are incredible. Thank you. Yeah. Cereal with a spoon. Are these all magnets, or are they just like... Everything's a magnet. Yep. Okay. All right. And how... Because there's really no scale. How big are they? And that's the other thing that I didn't really know. Like, in the true world of miniatures, there's a lot of snobbery on like the it doesn't scale. Qualify as a miniature if it's too big. Okay. Oh yeah, and I didn't know that. I'm like, hey, you know, there was like a miniatures club, and I brought my little, you know, pies and stuff, and they're like, oh, what scale is that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just a tiny thing. And they're like, is that 1/8 or 1/24, 1/12? And I'm like, oh gosh, numbers. Oh no. And I'm like, it's just a tiny food thing. And they were kind of like, you know, they just, no offense, because I mean, true miniaturists, it's astounding, but it's all like mathematical to scale. And I'm like, oh, I'm just having fun, everybody. Yeah. So I forget what scale I am. I think I'm like American Girl doll size, which is either, and that's funny, numbers just don't stick in my head. It's either 1/8 or it's 1/20. I think it's 1/8 scale. I think it resonates when you say American Girl doll size. That's how I noticed. There was a joke that Americans will use like anything to measure or to tell a measurement besides numbers, like a banana. Yeah, there was this one that said
there's the size of 3 blue whales opened up in this such and such town, and some guy commented on the Twitter, it's like, man, Americans use anything besides numbers, and the guy commented, goes, come within 3 blue whales of America and say that. So that's saying American doll size is perfect. These are, I'm looking at more of this veggie tray.
That was an unexpected viral hit last Christmas. Yeah, I could not keep those in stock, and I'm repurposing. Those are the tabs from like milk, like oat milk, soy milk, the little plastic cap. That's I have all my friends save those for me, and I snip the tops off of that, and that's what actually is the little plate that's holding the ranch dip.
Okay.
I try and use recycled materials whenever I can, but most of it's all mixed media.
Yeah.
And that's what makes my miniatures unique, is that most miniatures are just clay. But because I'm not using any clay, I can get hyper realism and much better textures. And I'm always coming up with new things,
Do you go to that, again, they were on my podcast. There's a recycle store in Maumee, I believe.
Oh, yes, Scrap for Art.
Yes, Scrap for Art. Yeah.
I love them. Yeah. Actually, I just made a
too.
donation to them a couple weeks ago.
Nice. Yeah.
They are fantastic there. I got a lot of the beads from there, and they do a fantastic job. That is it's a hidden gem in the community.
Yeah, it was, when they were on here to talk about it, it was really cool because again, I didn't know a lot about it, so it was really cool to hear exactly what they do and what they take and what they don't take and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you get time, this is minimiscellaneous.com. These are pretty cool. I might have to get some. My daughter will love them because she just bought her very first American Girl doll with her own money.
Oh, that's so great.
Because like Meyer sells the off-brand or whatever. She has some of those, and my wife had one when she was little, so she gave that to her American Girl doll. So now she bought her own. She was getting frustrated because she had an American Girl doll, and then she bought pajamas, but it was from Meyer. So she's like, Dad, they're not fitting. Like she was going to lose her mind. She's like, they're not fitting. And so, but I was able to get it on. And
good.
Yeah.
What a scamorama. Come on.
It was
pajamas for a little girl's doll.
You basically have to make sure their arms you have to put the arms and legs in at the same time, and then everything comes up. Okay. So, but it was,
You're a good dad.
she didn't know that, and she was about to have a cow about it. But yeah, these are, if anybody's listening, and you are still making, you said you're still making some of these, or you just have whatever you have.
I'm trying
available?
to figure that out. Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't want to put this in the show notes if
Yeah, they're all available on there. Everything on that website is available. I have inventory, and I did some amazing shows. My husband helps me do the shows. We did Tiny Expo in Ann Arbor last Christmas, which was amazing. And I did the Detroit Urban Craft Fair, which was phenomenal too.
Oh, nice.
We set up the table, and I love talking to people about that, and just, having people like my work is amazing. So, it's still active. I'm not gonna, it's like just part of my creativity that I'm always thinking about it. Like maybe I could make that into a banana, like a little banana, I want to do other little miniature ideas are always in the back of my head. I'm just by nature, a creative kind of person. So there's no way I would be able to turn that off. So right now with my focus on Carpets by Otto for my family's business, it's a little bit on pause, or it's on a soft hold or something, but I'm proud of them, and it's alive and well, and it's on Instagram and everything too. So same thing with my contemporary painting. That's artbykelly.com, and on Instagram that's Art by Kelly Brown. But I'm still doing painting, and that's more abstract, fine art kind of painting. And I've done paintings for all the showrooms to hang in the conference rooms and such. So it's just something I do is art and creativity and mini sculptures and paintings and things. So.
Well, I'll make sure to put those websites in the show notes so people can click on.
That's great. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So now you're 2020. You're back at Carpets by Otto, and from what you're saying is this is basically your first time being actually with this company, as opposed to just I'm doing things here every now and then, right? So what is your current role for Carpets by Otto?
I am vice president.
Okay.
What happened was during 2020, when I was doing some upkeep and things, I was listening to our salespeople, and we had some employee changes. We had some employees leave, and there was another employee that we ushered out. And now we have our core people. Most of our people have been with us for 20 to 30 years. Wow. It's like a family. Yeah. And now, what was going on in the past, it's just a world away from what's happening now. And the future is very bright. And my parents just are at an age where they wanted to retire. And we had to make a decision as a family, like, is Carpets by Otto going to continue, or is this it? Like, literally, we would be shutting down because my mother, wants to help with my dad. He's got some health issues. And so it was just like, my husband and I were like, we're going to do this. We're going to all in. We're going to do this. So it's my honor and it's my privilege. I've known these people my whole life. They've known me, and it's really exciting. I'm really just invigorated by the challenge because I never would have guessed that this is how it would have worked out so perfectly. But I always kind of knew, like, that little inkling I had as a little girl. But now here it is. And I'm, my husband and I, we're rocking it. We're stepping up. We're learning things. I'm getting much more into the business end of it. And
any numbers?
Any what?
Any numbers? Are you working with any numbers?
I am.
Okay, all right.
It's happening. Luckily, my husband is like a complete computer numbers guy. He's very mathy. He is very he was a systems architect at his former job, and just like he's a pure numbers person, which is great.
Yeah.
And but I am getting involved in numbers. I'm like doing buying for the store, and but it's wonderful. I love working with people and how my dad like kind of showed me, and it's like doing the best part of my art shows, because when I was making these tiny little things, I was alone in my art studio, and then the only time I got to interact with people was when I was doing a show, and I love that part, talking to people and like sharing the work and interacting. And then I just go back to my studio where I'm alone, listening to podcasts and or Titanic documentaries and or Alfred Hitchcock movies and things like that. But now, by being with Carpets by Otto now, I'm interacting with the team every day. I'm talking to customers. I'm helping solve problems. And it's really, I don't know, I just like it. I like being around people and talking with people. So it's just like the best of both worlds. It's really, I'm so grateful. It's just super amazing how like it actually all came together. So
yeah, I'm with you. I love talking to people. I've been a supervisor for the Metro Parks for a couple years now, and that's my favorite part, is just interacting with my team. We have meetings every morning for about 10 minutes just to see what the day's what we're doing for that day and everything. And it's my favorite part. I love being in charge of parks, but in charge of people is what I really like to do. And I didn't realize, like, there was a point, I don't know if I'm there anymore, but there was a point where I was going to shift into like HR and career development with the Metro Parks. I was kind of leaning towards that. And then I realized, like, well, I do that as a coach. Like, I'm developing, these kids to be good players, and, whatever age I coach. I've coached 4-year-olds up to 18-year-olds. So, like, whatever they're doing. So it's natural for me to want to do that. But then I got moved to Glass City Metro Park downtown, and I'm like, oh, this is all this brand new stuff. This is where I'm going to be now. And I can still develop people, but now it's just my crew that I'm developing. But I love that part of it, because same thing,
wonderful.
Like, I want to just talk. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to people.
Right. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. There's so much cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Well, I would have never guessed we would have, that's the best part of, again, at the beginning, we talked about someone I don't know, talking about Titanic, ElfQuest, many things, like all these things. It's really cool. Is it copyright infringement if you make a mini Titanic door? Do you think that's copyright infringement?
See, now that's going to be a bubble floating around that at some point I'm going to have to pop. That's a good idea.
You can just call it a door. You don't have to put anything.
That's a really good idea. People that know will know.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And then those people will be like, wow, you're into tiny things and Titanic.
You got to merge all these worlds together. Make it out of carpet, and you got it all.
There you go. Oh, wow. How am I going to do that?
So have a store called Carpets by Otto. It's just like, oh, they only sell carpets, but you guys do more than just carpet, right? You do other flooring.
We do.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're trying to help, people to get that. Anything that goes on the floor, we do. We do ceramic tile and vinyl plank and hardwood. We custom make area rugs. We have a technician, Robbie, in our warehouse, custom makes any shape you want, and he'll do binding on the edge if you want custom. It's all hand done in house. We have it all. We have all different types of carpet, and if it goes on the floor, we've got it. So
I put in vinyl planks in my kitchen. Well, my basement first, and it went really well. My kitchen didn't go as well. I didn't realize I had two different kinds. I mean, they were the same manufacturer, but they were like two different. One was a 16th bigger. And I didn't realize that.
Oh.
And now there's a section where the two are meeting and they cracked. But I think I'll be able to fix it. But it's also very hard to like fix vinyl planks because I feel like you have to like go backwards like a bunch just to get to like one spot.
Yes, they can do it. They can do a repair, and but yeah, that's the thing. You installed it yourself?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, me, and my wife, my kids helped a little, but they were mostly just carrying stuff around and handing me things, as most kids do. Shining a flashlight on areas I didn't need it shined, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I can fix it. I don't have to go back very far. But also our baseboards were off for a while longer than they should have. Like all these things just took longer because we have kids, we got a life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with it. And I think my wife is probably happy too, but I think she wants to say more about it, but she doesn't want to make me feel bad. But I understand that. And I think she understands like this is the first time we've ever done it. So, we had an island too, and we moved the island, but we tipped it and the drawers broke because they came out, they broke, but I was able to repair those. So as a homeowner, like, I like trying to figure stuff out, because I think that's the best way to do it. There's some stuff I'm never going to do, like electrical work or whatever.
Right. Good. Yeah.
But all these other things like laying this floor down or even fixing these doors, you can find so many things on YouTube and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But these floors went pretty good. I replaced the toilet. I know we replaced the toilet because I put in new floors. So like all these things, trying to figure out. But I'd say like make sure you're paying attention to the boxes you're grabbing from the store because like I said, that 16th doesn't seem like a lot, but and then it all comes back like, oh, no wonder it was harder to put these pieces together.
Yeah, that's a thing. And I'm learning the nuances. We have stock at our warehouse. We have stock products for the DIYers, and I have mad respect for people that are like, "Yep, we want 50 boxes, and that's all we want. We're going to install it on their own." So that's snaps to you for taking that on.
Well, it was something my wife wanted. Yeah. It was, and it was like I said. I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot from it. And there's still some areas you can see subfloor because I haven't quite figured out how to match or how to put the floor up to the door entryway from the garage. Just trying to figure out. And then I'm afraid like someone's gonna be like, well, you have to like rip your floor up to start. I'm like, nah, we're good. I'll just see a little bit of subfloor then. I'm good.
Right.
And we'll replace these again in 5 years or whatever. Anyway, so
choose your battles. Right.
Well, you've been at Carpets by Otto. It sounds like you and your husband are doing a bang up job there. I appreciate you sharing the podcast when you did with Doug, and to you leading to come on here. This has been awesome. You're great. And again, just seeing that building when you sent that video, just I think of probably driving to hometown of Faye to celebrate a birthday or something. Just as a kid, you all you can do, especially back then, is stare out the window and look at things. And that's just something I remember going under the bridge and seeing that Carpets by Otto building.
I love
right
that.
There.
Thank you. It feels like it's an extension of my own home, and I really do genuinely care. So
well, that's good. Yeah. So thanks again for coming on here, for driving out here. I know it's a little snowy morning, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks again to my guest, Kelly Brown, for coming on the podcast today. It was awesome. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast and probably at the end, interviewing people I don't know is really cool because you never know where you're going to talk about. I mean, I knew we were going to talk about Carpets by Otto, but her art career, the different, the faux finishes she used to do, the paintings she does now, and her miniatures that she has, like in ElfQuest. You never know where you're going to get into. So it was a great episode, and I really appreciate her for coming on the podcast. Please make sure to click on her websites, check out what she has to offer at both those websites. As always, thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their space. If you want any information about the classes they have to offer, check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. Thanks to Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lag, Big Daddy Graphics, and Real JP Multimedia for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.